And I just welcome everybody here. It's nice to see so many faces. And Mr. Perry, thank you for the hot cross buns. I would like to start this presentation by as Cynthia said, sharing the land acknowledgement. We understand that we are all on our own personal journey towards diversity and inclusion, and using the land acknowledgement sometimes may not be comfortable for everybody. At Empire, we encourage a thoughtful approach to its use as we progress towards reconciliation. As an organization that has thrived and continues to provide a space for employees to work, learn, and grow for over a century, we acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the First Nations, the Métis, and the Inuit. We share our respect and gratitude for all Indigenous peoples who have lived on these lands for centuries. We are grateful for the opportunity to live, learn, and work on these lands. So, for sure. It is so nice to see you again, DR.ABC. I will now turn the microphone back to Cynthia.
Thank you, Paul. All right, so I will now introduce our dynamic speaker, Dr. Andrew Campbell. And I couldn't memorize everything that's all about him, so I have a printed that I will share. Dr. Andrew B. Campbell, or DR.ABC as we fondly call him, is an assistant professor teaching stream leadership for leisure. At the University of Ontario, the University of Toronto, Ontario, Institute for Studies in Education, OISE as they call it. His scholarship and teaching focus on anti-racist pedagogy and diversity in educational leadership. DR.ABC is well known to the OISE community for his leadership on advancing anti-discrimination work in teacher education and recently receiving the OISE's 2022 Award for Excellence in Initial Teacher Education. He teaches courses in anti-discrimination education, leadership and diversity, educational change, urban education, and Black educators. DR.ABC previously taught at Queen's University, the University of the West Indies, Niagara University, Seneca College, and Durham College. In addition to past experience as a classroom teacher and administrator in Jamaica and the Bahamas. He has presented at numerous conferences and has delivered many presentations as a keynote speaker, motivational speaker, and workshop facilitator. He loves food, people, fashion, traveling, and bringing his community together for a good meal. So please help me in welcoming DR.ABC.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Thank you so much. We have to get a higher podium next time, okay? But we are good. We are going to make it work. It's a really pleasure for me to be here this afternoon to speak with you at your Black History Month celebration. Reminded her, as is also going to be my speech, that Black History Month is not for the Black people only. It's for all of us. It's a time to celebrate. Like when you have a birthday party, it's my birthday, but you get to come and dance and come for the turn up. But I get the gifts and I blow out the candle. But you get to be a part of the turn up. That's what it's about, all right? And so we all have a part to play. And as one of our leaders said during the land acknowledgement, remind us that the work we're talking about, Blackness, the work in equity, diversity, and inclusion, the work in all of this, a journey. So every single one of us, we are at different parts of the journey. And that is why sometimes there's so much controversy or so many emotions or discomfort when we have these courageous conversations, because some persons are not ready for courageous conversations. Some persons are ready. Some persons don't even understand why we're having a courageous conversation. But the good thing here is at 1 o'clock, let's say 1:05, I saw everyone coming inside. And that says you are here for a conversation. When we logged online, there are about 39 people at 1 minute to 1. That means people are here for a conversation. So I want to let you know how important that is, and that you have taken the time out of your day to have this conversation. This is not a part of my speech, of course, I'm not reading as yet, but it's very important I underline that, because in the work of equity, diversity, inclusion, whatever you want to call it, there's so many places that are not anywhere near having these conversations. And so you have to ask yourself, where am I on this journey? And I must say, you are at an amazing place so far. I had a conversation with the leaders. Normally, it don't start with the leaders. Normally, it does not start with the leaders. And so I want to say how honored I am to see this being happening. So today we want to talk about cultivating, sustaining, protecting, and celebrating Black excellence in the one of our workplace. And it's all our duties, every one of us, to do that. And you could take out the word Black excellence if we weren't at this event and put any other employee in that spot. So I want you to understand, it's not just about that. It's a Black people's birthday, quote unquote, so to speak, but it can be used for any one of us. How do we cultivate, sustain, and protect that level of excellence in the workplace? And we're focusing, of course, on our Black employees at this time. So about 3 years ago, I was at the Ontario School Librarian Association at a conference. I was a keynote speaker, and I was talking about the student excellence for students. And somebody asked me, how do we create Black excellence in our school? It was a school question at that time. And it took me a while to respond. I paused for a while, and this was my exact response to that response. Black excellence is not new. You just have not acknowledged it. Black excellence is not invisible. You just have not featured it. Black excellence is not reckless. You just have not protected it. And Black excellence is not limited. You just have not preserved it. And so we ask ourselves, how do we cultivate, sustain, protect, and celebrate Black excellence in the workplace? So at the very start, I wish for every one of us to think of this topic and think of your own role, whatever your role is, whether you're a leader, you're in charge of technology, you're in charge of any department. Think of your role in doing the work of protecting, preserving, cultivating Black excellence. And as you do that, I want you also to think of the organization and what the intentional actions you are doing in equity, diversity, and inclusion, in anti-Black racism, in racial justice, in anti-oppressive practice, in decolonization, and healing and well-being. Those are the major umbrellas when we talk about equity, diversity, and inclusion. And I close, the last one I mentioned was healing and well-being, because many persons who have been doing the work realize that there needs to be some trauma-informed work. There needs to be healing of all the hurt happening, and also people need to come to work and they need to be well enough to work. So well-being is a big thing. Remember I told you, so September 2023, in all the school boards all over Ontario, you're going to hear the word well-being almost every day, because we're realizing that our students are not doing well, not because they don't want to do well, because there are so many issues out there impacting their well-being. And the same thing happens for workers. If you have so many things that are distracting you from being your whole self, then you're not going to perform well. And so you ask yourself, how do we do that so that those of us, are those persons among us who are racialized, that's a word we use, minoritized, stigmatized, or marginalized in the system, will be able to have all the opportunities that they're supposed to have. So I know many of you, when you hear the topic Black excellence, you may think you're going to come here today, you're going to get a history lesson on all the famous Black people who have done something, invented something, or established something. You really could Google that. Literally go Google Black people who's amazing. You may see my name on the list, you could Google that. Nobody wants to pay me to drive all this way to come upstairs, give you all this good food so we could Google things. I've met come a couple of your leaders. No, they are not going to waste money on that, right? So maybe you also want to get a list of Black famous people who are, living their best life, like Beyonce, whose tickets are very expensive. Trying to get to a Beyonce concert near you, right? No, we're not trying to do that. But this is fine, and it's okay if we were doing that. It would actually be okay if we were highlighting that. But that's not what we are here to do. I want to ensure today we focus on all Black people. I want to make a note of that. But especially with those with which you and I come in contact with. Your job is not to save the entire world, but those persons you come in contact with, how when you look around the room, you're online, I know there are many of you online, how do you interact with the black person, the racialized person, the persons of color who you work with? That is the most important you're thinking of. Because when we talk about black excellence, what a lot of people think we're talking about is black exceptionalism. Two different things, black excellence and black exceptionalism. Black exceptionalism is where we highlight black people like myself who are PhD and you're an award, so you're exceptional. And that becomes something very, very, very troubling. Because what that does is already, again, establish a level of ladder, access, you get in, you don't get in. You come, you can go. You stay here, and we go back to the same thing again, where even within our own race, we're going to be having marginalization and internalization of racism. So we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about how all black people, from the person who, if the person who cleans this room is black, from that person to an executive member who is black, how we make sure we cultivate, protect, sustain their black excellence at every single level. So that is what I want to talk about. And there's a problem if we focus on just celebration. So there's no problem. But there is a little problem if we focus on just celebration, but then we say nothing about dismantling racism. So there's a lot of organizations who they're having their Black History Month event this month, and yeah, it's a celebration, but the other 11 months, it's filled with microaggression, racism, it's filled with misogyny, systematic barriers faced by black staff, and lack of opportunity, access, and growth. So we don't want to be into that place where we perform equity, we perform inclusion, that one day when you get to be able to say all the nice things about black people, and then after that, it's nothing. So we don't want to be caught into that. So we want to be able to sustain what we are doing. So last month, as I said to you before, I had another opportunity to have this very conversation with another group of individuals. And I was asked another question. This question was, what really, it's kind of a strange question, but a powerful question. After talking for 45 minutes, the first person raises his hand and he says to me, what really is black excellence? It was an honest question. I could sense it coming from an honest place, a young black guy, and he said, what really is black excellence? Is it something we have to attain to? In my response, I made it very clear that black excellence is absolutely not another measure to hold ourselves to, or another door we need to get access to, or another space that seems to elude most of us. It is absolutely none of these things. We are black excellence, just as you are. And I'm speaking to the black people who are in this room and the black people who are online. I see you all online. You are black excellence just as you are. It's nothing to attain to. You are black excellence just as you are. And you're black from your various places. You're either your Kenyan food today. I was in Ghana the other day, Ghanaian food. You're tall, you're short, you're big ear, you're Afro. Right? If you're LGBTQ, your mother, your father, you're immigrant, or you're born here, as we say in Jamaica, you're first, second, or third generation, you have a strong accent, or you speak Spanish, French, English, tribal languages, wherever you're from, your villages or you're from your empires, you are black excellence just as you are. And in the words of one of my friends on LinkedIn, Kimberly Cato, when she saw me make that post, she said, black excellence is not indicative of something we must achieve. It is the reality of who we are. And I want you to understand that I can speak to any one of us in that same idea that many times we talk about mental health and well-being. It has to do with people who do not know who they are. And so I find myself teaching people who they are. And I find myself realizing how many people react to me when they realize I walk into a place with a level of certainty. It impacts them because they don't get to see that quite a bit. I went to a school the other day, I have to share this with you, and I was a guest speaker for a school event, and of course I use the kids, to kind of welcome Mr. Campbell outside, and I left my car, it's snowing, so I'm giving you good winter regalia. Come on, somebody. That's a black preacher inside of me sometimes. I am dressed up. I don't go anywhere unless I'm dressed up. I'm dressed up. I have a big, beautiful coat on. It's London fog. It's almost to the ground. My hat is like this big Russian one. Come on now, I'm looking delicious. As I come to the door, oh yes, I did say that. As I come to the door, two of the students there, two black girls, they said to me, OMG, you look so beautiful. That they forget that they're there officially to welcome to me. That was their reaction. And I share that with you for a reason, because you may not realize it if you don't come from that space of marginalization, that we are not taught to take up space. We are not taught to enter a space with a level of bravado or a level of presence that says, I am here and I own this building. And so that is something that I can tell you, I have to be teaching in many spaces. Black people ask me to be guest speaker, and I talk about that level of self-awareness. How do you affirm yourself and affirm others? So Black excellence includes all of that as we grow. So far too many of us, another issue is that far too many of us, we are taught that Black excellence means we have to come against the odds. We're like a flower in a concrete. We love that, right? If you Google that, you see a lot of pictures, a flower in a concrete. A flower bursts into the concrete. Ask yourself, is that the right example of Black excellence? A flower bursts into a concrete because the entire well-being of that flower is dependent on resistance. And when you think about that for a minute, I love that picture. I thought it was a fabulous picture until one day I said to myself, it's still a fabulous picture. I said to myself, if that's what we're going to talk about with well-being, burst into a concrete every time, you have to realize a concrete is not the natural ground for a flower. And so what that flower did not get is the natural cultivation that it needs. And that's why I use my first word, cultivating Black excellence. So ask yourself as an organization, what am I doing to make sure that the Black people who come to work here at Empire don't have to constantly feel like they're bursting through a concrete? And that is not just here, that is everywhere. You hear people talk at university level, you'd be surprised because there's so much microaggression, there's so much deficit thinking, there's so much reminder of where you're from, there's so much wondering if you're good enough, you're qualified enough, and we constantly, as racialized folks, we have to measure ourselves to see if we are good enough. I went to an event 2 years ago and I said to them, I don't use any measurement. I know I'm good enough. Measurement by whose standard? Because the standard we're going to measure ourselves by, it's going to be a European standard of excellence. It's going to be a European standard of what is good. Who created that standard? That standard came from colonization, because there were standards before colonization, just that we thought these standards are not good enough, and so we created our own. So when we talk about Black excellence, let me remind you about the reason to. Now we talk about cultivate, the reason to protect. So let me warn you about this. Martin Luther King Jr., which we all love and we quote all the time, I just want you to remember that he was on the FBI most wanted list. I just want you to understand that. Rosa Parks, I'm going to go to Harriet Tubman of the great Underground Radio we talk about in Canada a lot. Remember, she was a fugitive. Our pictures with her on our poster was all over, wanted dead or alive. Now we think, yeah, the Underground Railroad, as if it's some subway car. It's not a subway car. This is a time when somebody was wanted dead or alive. It would be nice if I shared you pictures, like many students like what I do, of Miss South Africa 2019, Miss Universe, Zuzubini Tunzi, who won Miss Universe 2019 when she was famous for her low, non-textured hair. It was celebrated all over. But we tend to forget that there are Black women every day in organization who are traumatized and hurt and harmed, directed by Black women in many places because of professional hair, based on a total colonized standard of beauty. Also not mentioned a number of times that fashion and beauty brands have been caught in racist acts like Victoria's Secret, and their disrespect and dishonor and appropriation of indigenous identity and Asian culture. H&M have done it, Dove, Gucci, Adidas, and the list goes on and on. How are we protecting Black excellence. We celebrate the Miss Universe, but you go back to your workplace and there are actual memo about here and what is professional. Ask yourself, what are we doing? So in this organization, who in your organization is protecting and sustaining and celebrating Black excellence? Without telling you of the number of massacres that we have had in the United States when it comes to Black communities, I want to talk about sustaining Black excellence. I did some research on violence in America and in Black neighborhood. And just want to remind you that the biggest massacre, Tulsa Massacre in 1921, that they destroyed, the attackers burned and destroyed 35 square blocks of neighborhood. At the time, one of the wealthiest Black communities in the United States, known as Black Wall Street. Black excellence was not protected. And I went to my research, and there are tons of communities like that. But let's get closer to home. Let's get to Canada. Africville in Halifax. Heard of it before? Heard of it before. Africville in Halifax, Nova Scotia, that was destroyed by the city of Halifax. I'm saying we work in systems of oppression that are authentically racist from historical context. And I'll share one of that example to you in a minute, right? So Halifax, one of the few spaces where Black people felt safe and where, watch me carefully, where they cultivated their excellence, build their lives, and thrive. In the many news stories and documentaries, you could find them online about this place, something that stood out to me was the description of the location. I'm going to tell you what it says in many news story. You could Google. It said this city, Africville, it began where the city limits ended. I want that to register for a minute that there's a place in Halifax where Black people, watch me carefully, who pay tax. It's there in the research. It's there in the document. Who paid tax and bought land decide to live into a place where the city limits ended. They went to a place where there was no running water, no city transportation, nor sewer. And they made it into a home. The city came and destroyed it. Black people were thriving in Africville. They built homes, they built schools, they grew their families, they built their churches, they built a community where they were thriving. The city refused at the time to provide certain services, tax-paying people, that the records show, yet still Blackness was not protected. And in 1962, not far away, the city council voted to bulldoze the land. By 1970, the place was destroyed, Blackness displaced. The mayor of Halifax, in 2010, just 12 years ago, 2010, made an apology for the action that was done. I want you to understand, when Blackness is not protected, when Black excellence is not nurtured, it's dangerous. I saw a cartoon. If I had my video, I'll show you. Just a little diagram kind of cartoon thing of the trajectory of Black women in academia, Black female professors. And it shows you how they come in, how they're celebrated, how they're targeted, the misogynoir, the microaggression, and how they exit. Black excellence is not protected. So let me give you another example. And I'm going to read this one. I'm going to take it up so I could read this one for you carefully. So I want to share with you another thing. It is an article from the Queen's University website. In 1918, the Senate of Queen's University voted to support a motion prohibiting students of African descent from attending its medical school. Just for the record, Queen is not the only university who did this, but they were the one that published their thing. At the request of the Faculty of Medicine, a ban was enforced until 1965. No black people can go to Queen's University to become a medical doctor. When we ask ourselves, where are the black doctors? I want you to remember when I said this to you today about how blackness was prevented from cultivating. Even after 1965, archival evidence suggests historical facts of the ban was misrepresented by the university when confronted with the issue in 1978, 1986, and 1988. Watch me again, 2018. Once Mr. Thomas presented his research finding to the Queen's Senate and brought the light to motion continued existence. A century after banning admission of black students to its medical school, Queen's University has extended, watch me again, a formal letter of apology, acknowledging the institution's past racist action and repeated failures to hold itself accountable. This happened in 2018, 100 years after. Ask yourself for a minute, if this did not happen, how many black students would have gone to medical school? Ask yourself. I used to teach at Queen's, I still teach at Queen's University. Ask yourself those things. So when you see, even for myself, I can get very personal. When I walk into a class at OIS and there are 32 students and only one of them is black and one is Ijabwean and maybe two are Asian, you have a class of 30 white students, they see me different. They see me quite different because if you ask them, they will tell you, you are my first black professor. And what that does without them even realizing is that they don't know how to treat me. They don't know how to handle my excellence. So my excellence becomes arrogance. Because where they are from, the black people they know clean their house and clean their pool. Now a gentleman is standing in front of them who is their professor. And so they don't know how to handle me. I'm going to tell you one of the evidence of that. The first day they see you, they get to know your name, and the first thing comes off their mouth is, "Hi, Andrew." So yes, in 2023, I have to remind my students, you have to address me as Dr. Campbell. Do I need promotion? Do I need clout? No, I don't. I have won many teaching awards before I even came to Canada. I don't need that. But it's an unlearning for them because they are wired to see me not as valued as another professor. And I am the 2022 Award for Excellence in Teaching for the entire institution of OISE. But yet still, you have to make that correction. Yet still, black professors are questioned about the grades they give to students more than anybody else. I can't tell the number of times I have to advocate for another black professor. They really don't challenge me like that, and I can set it on record because I do not play that kind of foolishness. You see, I affirm myself in any space I go. You realize I am not the one to play with. And I'm saying that not in an aggressive manner. I'm saying that in the fact that this is something I should not have to do. But we work for an institution where black excellence is not as protected as it should. And so you have to ask yourself these questions. So I'm going to leave with you some reminders of how you're going to help to do that right here at Empire. Acknowledge the barriers faced by your black employees. I don't know your internal things, but there are many institutions I've been at, an organization that have asked me to speak at, where they have history like Queens. They'll say, well, there's nobody on our board who is black, there's nobody in our leadership team who is black, and we're working on mentorship and development. So they will tell you that, they'll confess that to me. So acknowledge the barriers that are faced by black employees. all of us must be intentional about the ways in which we disrupt anti-Black racism. Number two, engage in brave conversations. And guess what? You're doing that quite well. That's why you're here. This is a brave conversation. I know there are things that I said to you that made you kind of go, uncomfortable, kind of cross your leg and cross over. You know, when you're uncomfortable, you change leg crossing, you know, that kind of way. And that is okay. I want you to know it is okay. Don't feel bad about that. Because some of this is new. It's new conversation. It is absolutely new. It's not your regular conversation, right? The next thing I want you to do is number three, is use your power, your privilege, and your access. I always ask, what time do I have? Or what time, where are we at? 1:30. Oh, I'm good. I'm going to tell you a story so you understand exactly what I told the story already twice. I'm going to tell it again. This is the third time. I went to Ghana last year for a visit. My first time going to the continent of Africa. I went to Ghana to trace, you know, my history and go to the slave dungeon, which they call castles, by the way, and all that stuff. And the last time when I went in last year, August, it was, you know, emotional. It was heavy, but I went for learning and unlearning. So I stayed in very Black spaces. I learned a lot of stuff. This time I went back for my birthday. My birthday was in December, but I went back in January because I had debt in my family, so I pushed it to January. And this time I didn't want to do all of that. I wanted to enjoy some good Ghanaian food, live my best life, and just luxuriate. That's a part of well-being and self-care. And so the hotels I stayed at this time were different from the ones I stayed the last time, right? So there's a hotel in Ghana called the Movenpick, owned by the Arabs at that time. It's fabulous. The best pool I've seen, bar none. The best hotel pool I've seen, bar none. Rooms are gorgeous. Artwork are original on the wall. It's amazing. It's like good money per night, okay? Good money. And so I stayed there for a couple nights. I planned to stay there for a couple nights. I stayed at one hotel, a nice hotel, and I come to this hotel. So I drove into the hotel in a Uber, but they have Uber there, but I didn't use Uber. I used their app. So they have an African app like Uber. They want to support local. So I jump in the app, in the car. It's not going to be a car we see in Toronto. It's not going to be, you know, the Mercedes or whatever. It's a nice car, can have 4 wheels, air conditioner, it moves. Good enough. So I show up to the Movenpick. Now I want you to learn my learning. I show up to the Movenpick and I see the guys outside, Black guys. They're all dressed in more Arabian than African regalia. And I walked, I drove up, the taxi drove up and nobody came to the door. It's a broken down car. So I know exactly what happened because that place, you open door. It's open door kind of place, right? And I stepped out, I said, oh, we had open doors this afternoon. I said, oh, no, sir, we're sorry. We saw you. I said, no, you did not. I said, no, you did not. But that's okay. I'm feeling cute. I walked into my bags, walk into the Movenpick, and that's, watch me carefully, that's the first time in my 2 trips to Ghana I have seen so many Black people, so many white people in one spot. I've stayed at 3 hotels the last time. There was maybe 2 white people I saw. This time it was 95% white. It is the Movenpick. This is where KLM flight attendants stay, crew. This is where Air France crew stays. This is where all the beautiful airlines, this is where their flight crew sleeps. You're understanding now what it looks like. And I walked into the foyer, magnificent. I was impressed. So I went to check in because I'm ready to live my best life. Went to check in. I'm at the front of the check-in line. It's 3 o'clock, check-in time. One person is in front of me. The counter has four slots. Only one person is there. And I'm like, this is 3 o'clock, check-in time. What's going on? A lady came behind me. A white lady came. She stood behind me. She said to me, like, what's going on? I'm like, really? Like, I want to go live my best life. Another white lady came. She's standing behind her. Another white guy came. So there's 4 white people behind me. And I'm the Black guy. I'm at the front of the line. So they realize the line is getting long. People are now complaining. So somebody comes out from behind the door. Fabulous. Like, this place is fabulous. You can go there or Google it, the Movenpick. And a gentleman who's a supervisor is coming up. Black guy in his suit, walking up fast. And as he comes up to the line, he turns to the white lady right behind him and he says, may I assist you, madam? I'm saying to you now because the story is still raw and I can feel every emotion in my body. I turned to him and I said to him, no, you did not. I said to him, no, and I used my teacher's voice. I said, no, you did not. I said, no, you did not. And I repeated a third. I said, you did not just come to this line and totally ignored me, watch me carefully, erased me, stripped me of my dignity, and attend to the white woman behind me. I said, no, you did not. Immediately start apologizing, and people start looking, and it become a thing. And so I did a video, and it's on my YouTube. You can listen to the entire story. And people asked me, what did you want to see happen? So watch me carefully. Did I want the white woman behind me to take a placard, walk down the street, and demonstrate Black Lives Matter? No. Did I want the white woman behind me to have taken over and put him in his place and demand? No. That's not our job. I'm going to tell you what I wanted for people, because everybody asks the same question. What did she do? All I wanted for her to do, that I've done many times, is to say, he was before me. What would you do? You take your finger, fabulous. Okay, it's fabulous. It is fabulous. It costs money. It is fabulous. You take, all that you need to do is to say, he was before me. That's all. It's not hard. It's not a task. We're not asking you to go on a hike. To cultivate, protect, sustain, and celebrate Black excellence. That's all that needed, was for her to say, he was in front of me. That's it. Nothing else. So I said it for a reason. I shared the story for a reason. There are far too many times we ask ourselves in an organization like this, well, what can I do? And I say to you, what you're supposed to do is something very simple. But what you have done, you have become complicit. Silence. Your silence is dangerous. While you're silent, somebody's hurting. While you're silent, the company is not benefiting from diversity and inclusion because you're silent, because you are the third time you're on a committee and everybody is white and you don't say, can we work on diversifying this committee? You're supposed to say that, whoever you are, even if you are taking the minutes. I want you to understand your role in ensuring that this organization continue to grow in equity, diversity, and inclusion, because you have already started the work. So the last thing I want to share with you is be committed to the bridge. Be committed to the bridge. What do I mean by the bridge? A bridge protects us from depth, from drowning, from swamp, from alligator. Think about when you go over a bridge. If you had to swim across, you may be in trouble. Be a bridge. Be a bridge to workers and staff members who don't have the privilege that you have. Be a bridge to healing, care, and respect and honor. And I'm going to say to all the Black folks, let me take up my paper again, who are listening to me. I want to say this to all the Black folks who are listening to me. Remember your worth, affirm who you are, and affirm others. Affirm others. I never planned to say this. I'm going to say this. When I tell you I'm a great teacher in Toronto, I'm going to give you context. I have never had a school in my time being here for over 14 years where I've had a class of just Black students. I want that to connect to you. When I said I have been teacher of the year, it's never been into a school where I have had just Black children. So I am an excellent teacher for all children. I have been to school where my entire class is white. And I said, after a year of giving those kids the best of me, I said, I'm going to move on. And a teacher next to her, I'll never forget, she came to the door because she said, Mr. Campbell, you look like you've been thinking a lot about, and I said, it's been on my mind, Miss Marianne. And she looked at me and tears came down her eyes. And I said, I want to go to a school where there are more Black kids that need me. And tears ran down her eyes. And she said to me, she said, every child needs a Mr. Campbell. Tears ran down her eyes. She said, every child needs a Mr. Campbell. And I stayed in that school for 3.5 years. So when I say Black excellence need to be protected and nurtured, you're not listening to someone who is an activist who only teach Black people's children. When I went to the Bahamas, I taught rich people's children in private schools. So when I said your job is to sustain excellence, I do that with all my students. My students at the University of Toronto, they are 95% white students. They will tell you, Dr. Campbell gave them the best. Not the Black student. I gave all my students the best. So I want to kind of put that in context for you when I talk about affirm others. Take care of your Blackness. As one poet says, Blackness is not something you choose, but something you get to cherish. Learn to choose you. Attend to your self-care, your mental health, and your well-being. Show up for yourself. Write your own story and cultivate your own Black joy. The people you work with and play with and enjoy time with, they can sustain your joy. But the cultivation of your joy, that's your responsibility. I want you to know that in self-care. And so I'm going to close with a statement I made in a book that is coming out in a couple months. And this is my acknowledgement in the book that is going to be published, and my dedication is my dedication, and I want to share my dedication with you. And this book is actually coming out about 4 months from now, and it's called Enacting Anti-Racist Activist Pedagogies. And I listen to this as I close. There are many ways to disrupt. This is a statement I use often. I remind my fellow advocates and activists within and without institutions that we have the power to disrupt on a daily basis. We are not powerless as many would assume. One such demonstration of power is the ways in which we hold community together. Intentionally pouring in the oil and the wine to heal, fuel, and provide hope in troubled times so that we can continue to enact anti-racist work. I dedicate this book to all those activists who intentionally are applying healing to themselves and healing to community. Listen to my last sentence. Resistance work is more than the breaking down tools. It is also the building up tools, the healing tools, the protecting tools, the preserving tools, the love tools. Signed, Dr. ABC. That's me. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for having me. Absolutely pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I think we have a few minutes for 1 or 2 questions because I know you have to go back to work. Oh, yes, you're going back to work. No, you didn't get the day off. You're going back to work. 1 or 2 questions? You have a question, please? Oh, you're going to get 1 or 2. Anybody? Questions or comments? We take comments as well. Questions, comments? Anybody? Don't be shy. Well, you're going to be on camera still, but don't be shy. No one? We're good? We're good. It's sinking in, right? You know, it's funny that you're quiet. Don't feel like it's bad that you're quiet. I've learned from an indigenous woman actually going to workshops about the silence and the space and the quiet. And she's so big on that because I used to always feel like if there's quiet, you need to fill it. We kind of, need to fill silence. And she said, no. She would say, let us sit in silence for the next 10 minutes. And it was like magical. And then she would pretend, she liked to say to us, can you hear the AC blowing? Hear a car outside? But when you're hearing those things, she always talk about you're listening also politically because it's getting on the inside. So if you have any questions, that's okay. I encourage you to continue listening to your heart, to your body, to your spirit, to your mind in a political way. And listen around you, what's happening, who is being seen, who is not being seen, who has access and who does not have access. So thank you, thank you, thank you. There's a comment in the chat. Okay, wonderful.
There we go. All right. Just looking at the room, seems like everyone seems excited today. It's hard to follow and act like Dr. ABC. Really appreciate you joining us today to share this moment. I know we do have some comments on the chat that I just want to read out loud. So everyone's saying thank you for just coming here and sharing that. And just really thanking you for just being here and really acknowledging and being able to share what it means for Black excellence. The one thing I want to say is I've been with the organization coming up for 13 years. And one of the things that I've noticed about this organization is we're very progressive, right? We're always willing to learn, always willing to give people opportunities. So it's and it's the reason why all of us are here today, to really listen and be able to learn and also grow as an organization. So I do appreciate the fact that you came to share that message with us, given the fact that it's not just a Black message, it's a message for all. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, so just the same thing that I've just said, everybody's really just saying thank you very much. They appreciate you coming and sharing that with them. And yeah, they look forward to really just, hopefully we can get you in at another time to really share the same message and continue to just inspire our own minds. And with that said, I just want to say, Jen, you ready? Okay, perfect.
I am ready. Thanks, Nixon. So just on behalf of everyone here and online, we just wanted to thank you again, Dr. Campbell. Thank you for coming in again today. And thank you everyone for taking time out of your very busy schedules to join us here today. And we're very much looking forward to having you back again soon. And for anyone who wants to watch this again or let your teams know, we will be posting this online in the coming days on e-services. So thank you so much again, Dr. Campbell.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.